All right, I think we are live. Sorry for being a few minutes late here. I know I said 5:30 and it's a few minutes after, but hopefully you guys are all having a good day here. Thank you for joining. And yeah, it's been a little while since we've done one of these, so I just figured I'd do another one here. I miss doing these live streams. It's always a lot of fun. And so yeah, like always with these live streams, any super chats or super stickers will take priority. I'll answer those questions first, but I'll try and answer everyone else's questions as much as I possibly can. And yeah, so that's about it here. So I'm going to go for about 2 hours, like I usually do. And yeah, I see we already have a few people who have joined us here. Hopefully, you guys can hear me okay. Let me know if you can. But I think hopefully everything should be working all right. Um, all right, we got some people joining for their first one. And Luco says, you recommended some great backers from our motorcycles in the Pittsburgh area. Thank you. That's awesome. I'm glad you enjoy the roads. Hopefully you recognize some of them from the videos and stuff. And yeah, there's a lot of great roads here in Pittsburgh. It's a really fun place to have a vehicle that handles really well, or a motorcycle, because there's a lot of opportunities to really, get into the corners and have a lot of fun. All right, we got a bunch of people here now. So great to see everyone here. Hope you're all having a good weekend. Paul has the first question here that I see. He's asking, when is the new Mustang coming out? And I've actually been hearing a few people talking about this recently. And I think it's an interesting thing. I actually was looking into it a few days ago, and it sounds kind of like strange right now with the Mustang situation, because usually, so the original rumor was that it's coming sometime next year as a 2023 model vehicle. And the way Ford's been kind of delayed with COVID and everything over the past year, it sounded like maybe it wouldn't come until like January of 2023 or something. But even if that were the case, usually at this point, because I've been following, the S550 development whenever that happened, now, what, 7, 8 years ago, with those, you started seeing camouflage prototypes and stuff, even if they were the previous generation that are just like hacked up and stuff. You were starting to see those around this time or sooner. And there hasn't been any kind of prototypes really spied running around. The only thing that was spied in the past few weeks was like a mismatch of like a California Special GT that had like Mach 1 wheels on it, and things were hacked up a little bit, but it didn't even seem like it was enough to be a next generation prototype. It sounded like it was just mostly maybe a new special edition package or something they were, prototyping. So I don't know what the deal is with the new Mustang. There has been a lot of back and forth that hasn't been confirmed, but there's been back and forth as far as what they're even going to do with the new generation Mustang. There were some people that were saying it's just going to be basically using the new Explorer platform, which is CD6, and that it's going to be heavier and bigger on that platform. Then other people said, no, it's actually going to be using the S550 platform we currently have, but just been basically given a heavy refresh, change all the body panels, probably swap in some hybrid powertrains and things like that. And that would be the next generation Mustang. And then now, there's also people saying, well, maybe Dodge threw everyone a curveball by announcing the all electric, Charger or whatever they're doing in 2024. And maybe Ford, they kind of want to be on the cutting edge here with this stuff. And maybe Ford's like, well, wait a minute, if Dodge is going to have something in 2024, maybe we should just like work up something and do an actual full blown electric Mustang and beat them to the punch. So my personal hunch, and this could be complete, this is just my guess, I have no inside information or anything, but I'm inclined to believe that they might have gone back to the drawing board with the styling, which is why we're not seeing prototypes yet. Because what I think maybe they would want to do is possibly do two separate versions of the Mustang and have one that uses the Mach-E platform and basically just take the Mach-E skateboard, pop a two-door coupe body style on it, call it a day, and have that to compete with the Dodge stuff. And then you have possibly, just a carryover S550, but then you would have to, have a body style that would maybe fit over both platforms roughly, or be close enough that you can kind of swap out a lot of parts. Possibly, I don't know. But I just think that Ford's going to want to play in both areas, because I don't think they're going to want Dodge to beat them to the punch with the electric thing. Could be wrong, but anyway, the long answer to your question, I have no clue, but it sounds like they are behind development from where they typically would be at this point in time in the past, generations of development. So we'll have to see. I think Ford's kind of a little bit of a mess right now with, the Bronco. They have to keep recalling with a bunch of stuff with that. Mach-E's had a couple of recalls. There's been a bunch of fires they've had to put out, I think, and I think that's kind of taking priority over working on stuff like the Mustang, which we know is getting smaller and smaller with the volumes as time goes on. And so they got to work on the bigger fish, the Lightning. I'm sure they've pulled people to work on Lightning to get that out as fast as possible, stuff like that. So, we'll just have to wait and see. But yeah, I'm very excited to see what they do with the next generation Mustang. I have no plans to buy one. I'm going to keep the Bullet forever, but I still am always excited to see what they do next with the Mustang. So we'll see. But Luke has the first super chat here of the night. Thank you so much for the super chat, Luke. He says, getting stuck behind someone slow on a back road is cruel and unusual punishment. That is one of my biggest pet peeves. I mean, I can't blame people for, not tearing up a back road with me, but especially when I'm trying to film the reviews, there's sometimes where like, I literally just have to like pull over and stop and give someone like a minute to go ahead of me. And then finally be like, okay, now I can finally drive normally and actually like push this car a little bit so that, the review is actually me pushing the car and not going, 25 miles an hour behind someone. So it can definitely be annoying when I'm filming too, but yeah, I'm sure all of you can relate. I love being on a back road with no traffic. Tu Chang, thank you so much for a super chat. He says, wish they would make a V6 EcoBoost twin turbo Stang. I think there's a decent chance they're going to do something like that with the next generation. They originally teased, I don't know, probably 3 or 4 years ago now, they're going to do a hybrid Mustang. And then those plans must have evaporated into thin air because we've never heard anything about it since. So I have no clue, when that kind of stuff's coming, but it's almost certain we're going to have some type of hybridized, maybe V6 EcoBoost, like that power boost motor in the new F-150. Maybe they'll do that in the Mustang. We'll have to see, although I don't know how that would play with a manual. So maybe that would be an auto only thing. They're definitely going to keep the V8 around. So I don't think anyone needs to worry about that. But there's been rumors in the past they're going to be like V8, V6 EcoBoost, and then, just have the 4-cylinder EcoBoost as well. And maybe hybridize that so that it has more power as well. But yeah, who knows? So we have a couple of people talking about the RS3, my buddy Jason and Andrew and Jason. So as far as the RS3, it seems amazing. The RS3s are kind of small. That's the only thing that hurts them from a daily driver standpoint. But that engine and then the new tech with those new headlights and just everything about new Audis has really been blowing me away. And I'm actually going to be posting a review this week on an Audi RS7. That thing was a dream to live with for a week. And I love the new Audi stuff. It is really, really compelling. And again, it's kind of these last gasps of this performance stuff, especially the RS3, that 5-cylinder motor. We probably got a few more years with that with the new generation of the RS3, and then that's it. So that's going to be another collectible. Grab one if you can. Christian, thank you so much for a super chat. He says, what's your favorite new pickup truck? My favorite's the Rams. The Rams are, in my opinion, still the nicest interior, the smoothest ride, as far as full-size pickups go, at least. And obviously, if you can get the TRX version, those are by far, the most fun. I loved reviewing that TRX. I was kind of surprised that video got like no views, and I thought everyone would love that video because that thing was hilarious to accelerate in, and that thing is a blast. But yeah, personally, I think the Ram's the best. Second favorite is the new F-150. I think they made a lot of really nice improvements with that. And I'm curious to try out the new Silverados now that they actually have competitive technology on the inside and stuff. And so, I think those will be nice. The new Tundra looks really sweet too, though. I got to say, I know a lot of people hate the styling. I saw it in person. It's way to headquarters back before I was allowed to talk about it. And it looks really good in person, especially with the TRD Pro version that I saw. I mean, it's a huge thing, though. I mean, these like regular 1500 size trucks are getting enormous. That thing, it was crazy big, but I think that's going to be another very competitive one. I mean, all the new trucks these days are really competitive. I think the only one that like I have no interest in whatsoever is the Titan. The Titan is just like holding up last place, nice and solid there, in my opinion. But everything else, I think they're all kind of bringing the heat because they know that's the hot segment right now. But thank you so much for the super chat. So Shifty Super Studio says, I was saying my dad should own a Ford Super Duty F450 Platinum. Yeah, the F250 that I had with the 1,000 pound-feet of torque or whatever, that thing was a handful. It always wanted to spin the tires. It was hilarious. And yeah, if you need something like that, it's fun. But I think honestly, the 1500s, they just ride so much nicer and they're just much nicer to live with. All right, so Linda is asking, have you decided on a good family car? So Beth's lease is up on her Mercedes in April of next year. So we have some time before we have to worry about getting a car. And we're kind of waiting out the whole madness with the car market right now. I mean, April, it might not be much better, but maybe it'll be a little bit better. I don't know. So we're kind of holding off, but we have been discussing a lot about what we're going to do for her next vehicle. So I'm not going to reveal too much because we might do a video series on it, and the stuff that we're considering, I think, is stuff. There's a lot of potential surprises with several different vehicles that we're considering. So I will say that it sounds like most likely we're probably not going to go with the Mercedes GLB. That was originally what she kind of had her heart set on. But she actually had one as a loaner and did not like the dual clutch. It was not smooth. And the one we had only like 10,000 miles on it. It still felt a little rattly. And it just, the dual clutch, she hates those dual clutches. Her Fiesta had a terrible dual clutch, and this Mercedes, it was smoother, but it's not the smoothness that she's used to with her C-Class. You know, she has a C300 with a regular 9-speed auto that Mercedes has. That has a smoothness to it. It's not a perfect transmission either, but it's a whole lot better than that dual clutch they have in the GLB. So that kind of soured her on the GLB. And the EQB that's coming out, you know, is probably going to be a little bit too expensive. That would eliminate the transmission issue, but so I think that's probably out, and that might also not arrive in time anyway. So we're considering a bunch of other vehicles, and we're just going to have to see how things develop here in the next, 6 or 9 months and see what happens. But yes, we're working on coming up with a new vehicle, and it might not be a Mercedes, so that's kind of a little bit exciting. Beth has expanded her horizons, and she's considering other vehicles. So yeah, more to come on that for sure. I am going to keep my lips sealed for now on the stuff we're considering. But Luco, thank you so much for another super chat. He said, I want a manual transmission all-wheel drive. I'm pretty much stuck with the next gen Subaru WRX and a Toyota Tacoma, I believe, since my lease is up next October. So manual transmission all-wheel drive. Yeah, I guess if you want to buy something new, because there are, the used things like Audi S4s and stuff from way back when that had like the V8 with a manual and all-wheel drive. But yeah, I think the only other thing you could do is you can get the Volkswagen Golf R. The new Golf R is also manual with all-wheel drive. So that's another one to consider. I think the Golf R's are really sweet. I mean, the infotainment's a little iffy, but I think the Golf R is a great choice, especially for people that are a little bit sour about the WRX styling. I think if I were in the market for something like that, and the new WRX, as you guys well know, disappointed me, I'd be looking to check out a Golf R, or like you said, that Audi RS3 if you could afford it. But I know that's a big leap. But the Golf R isn't that big of a leap. I mean, depending on what trim of the WRX you're going with, they haven't announced pricing yet, but they're already really close to 30 grand even for a base model. And now with all the new tech and stuff inside of them, it's going to be close, if not over 30 grand even for a base one. So by the time you're going for a fully loaded WRX or something close to that, you're already going to be close to 40 grand anyway. You might as well spend the 40 grand, get the Golf R, have more power on the Golf R, better looks in my opinion, and all-wheel drive and a stick, and kind of have everything there. So I hope a lot of people do actually just go and buy Golf Rs, one, to send a message to Subaru that they can't just phone it in, and also so that they can keep the Golf Rs and the GTIs around here in the States, because I know that's another vehicle that's kind of on the ropes with Volkswagen. So I'm just glad we're still getting those. Tu Chang, thank you so much for another super chat. He said, I'm out. Kids in WWE tonight. Enjoy the WWE fights. And yeah, thanks for joining here for a little bit. And thank you again for another super chat. The AMG Criminal, thank you so much for another super chat here. He says, this Mark 6 GLI with a DSG I have now is a guilty pleasure car for me in a way. Still miss my W204 C63. What are your thoughts on it? I mean, they're great cars. The GLI, I did a Mark 6. It was a long time ago. That was like one of the early days of reviewing. I reviewed one of those one afternoon. They're solid cars. I've always liked the GLIs. I think they're great. I think that generation of GLI and GTI are really great. Yeah, I think it's a solid car. Although C63s are also very, very sweet. But yeah, I love the GLI, and you can go watch that video. It's going to be a cringy video probably because it was way back when I was first starting to review cars and wasn't quite as good at it. But I have done Mark 6 GLI. You can check that out if you're curious to hear all of my thoughts on it. But thank you so much for the super chat. The Con 1000 says, what is your take on the new Type R? If you're talking about the next gen version, we don't know, too much about that yet. If it's carryover motors and the new, hatchback Civic styling with a spoiler on the back, then I think it's going to be great. I love the current generation Type R. I did the refresh with the new adaptive dampers that were revised for that refresh. It's a fantastic adaptive damper system. It's one of the best in the industry as far as actually feeling a huge difference between the stiffest R mode and the softest comfort mode. I mean, comfort mode, it's like Cadillac smooth, and then that R mode, it's like a race car. And it's really cool to have those differentiations because everyone else is like, oh, we have adaptive suspensions, my Mustang Bullet included. And it's not as huge of a difference in those. Even in my Bullet, switching it to the stiffest mode, you can kind of tell on the street, but really you have to be on the track probably to even, notice any differences with that. So I really love the Type R. It really has a strong, differentiation there with the different modes. And I think they're really sweet too. Dom's asking if we're considering a Hyundai. We're considering a bunch of stuff. Probably not a Hyundai, but I mean, that's something, obviously we're going to be looking at mostly SUVs and things like that. And the new Tucson was really nice, but I think the thing, especially for Beth and I, is the infotainment being a deal breaker with not having a volume knob and everything being, capacitive touch and stuff. It's a little much for us with all that. So yeah, probably not looking into any Hyundais. But yeah, I know there's going to be a lot of questions about what we're looking into, but I'm going to try and keep my lips sealed here just in case I do a video series. If I don't do a video series, I'll spill all the beans in a future live stream, and that's that. So we'll have to see which way we go. Certain ways will be more exciting for a video series than other ways. So, we'll see. Maybe I'll just do one video and update you guys once we decide. But ATX Trent's asking, any Nissan reviews coming? Nissan reviews. They will be sending me the Pathfinder around Thanksgiving. Finally, I'm like the last person to get a Pathfinder. Not like I'm like, on the edge of my seat trying to review a Pathfinder, but I try and cover everything for various amounts of interest and whatever people are looking to buy and stuff. So that's going to be later this year, but also at some point they're going to be sending me a Frontier. They didn't say when, but they are expecting a Frontier in the press fleet, and I will be doing that. Aside from that, I mean, the Z, obviously that'll be like next summer or something. Otherwise, I don't think there's anything else new. I mean, in Infinity side, I'll probably be getting a QX60 at some point here before the end of the year too to review. But aside from those few, I don't think there's anything else that I haven't covered yet. I could be wrong. But yeah, so those are the ones to keep an eye out for there for sure. Luco, thank you so much for another super chat. He says, I could see Beth in a Ford Maverick, nice little bed for baby stuff, decent interior space. We are not into trucks whatsoever. So that is one I can certainly shoot down. We are not considering a Ford Maverick whatsoever. And I don't know, even when I have trucks as press vehicles, I hate going shopping with them because I just don't like having stuff flying around the bed, because if it rolls to the back, then it's like you're hopelessly having to dive 5 feet away to try and get your stuff out of the back, and then otherwise you just cram them into the back seat. And I'm not a truck fan, honestly. So no Ford Mavericks in our future, but I think they're gonna sell those things like crazy though. I mean, it's just, there's gonna be a lot of people that aren't into trucks that just get it and put a cap on the back of it like an SUV. And just, hey, I have a $20,000 Ford SUV brand new. It's, kind of tough to beat. Dawson, thank you so much for the super chat. He says, if you weren't doing YouTube or films, what is something interesting you think you would pursue? So I think probably if it wasn't one of those things, I'd love to do stuff in the film industry. I guess you've been a fan for a while, so I love, being an extra in movies and being on a movie set and stuff like that. If it wasn't that kind of stuff, I actually really am interested in finance, and I mean that's what I have my degree in. So probably would try and do some more extensive stock trading. I do a little bit of stock trading on the side whenever I have time. So I think maybe if I had more time, I would probably pursue that a little bit more seriously. So that might be something that I would do. And it's certainly, it's especially as a YouTuber, you got to have backup plans, and you got to have I'm just realistic about the fact that this might not last forever. So, I do kind of think about other things I can possibly do. And, it's one of those things like, maybe I'd start a new business or something like that. Something that involves driving, I really, love. So, even if like this YouTube channel, didn't last forever, maybe starting a different one, doing something else. There's all kinds of little ideas that I have, but I'd probably just start with stock trading and then go from there. Because every once in a while I'm good at it. It's one of those things that's very hit or miss sometimes, and I'm still working on it for sure. But that's an interesting question. Thank you for the super chat. Wretched Drake says, "Do you think cars are getting too expensive?" I think the car situation, I mean, yes, clearly, this year has been an outlier, and everyone basically that's buying a used car is overpaying right now for the most part. New cars, you can still get a decent deal on them, but, I think you also have to keep in mind, like a lot of people, I see this in like the weekly updates whenever I cover new cars, and I say, this car is starting at $30,000 for an affordable family SUV or something. And everyone's like $30,000. And typically it's like, people that are a little bit older or something. And they remember like when you can get a nice car for $20,000 or 25. And it's just, inflation is something that's always happened. And if you, can pull up an inflation calculator on Google and see, just even from a few years ago or something, like people are like, oh, my Mazda Speed 3 that I bought brand new when Mazda was doing Mazda Speed stuff, I only paid $20,000 for that or something. It's like, yeah, but that when you even change that for inflation, that still would be a $28,000 car, which makes the new WRX not look so bad being $30,000 to start or whatever it ends up being, so I think that, a lot of people overlook the inflation thing. And that is something that when you look at it in that perspective, unfortunately, wages and stuff have not kept up with inflation, but at least as far as the cars go, if you look back at, what you get for your money now versus even 15, 20, 30 years ago, you get so much more for your money now. I mean, it's kind of impressive. I can't remember what car I encountered this with recently, but there was a car where even like a Corolla, though, honestly, like a brand new Corolla, still, can start in the low $20,000 range. And the fact that you get, a touchscreen, stuff that was like high-end Mercedes S-Class stuff 10 or 15 years ago, that you're getting as standard with smartphone integration. And then you have like all these airbags. Like, I mean, if you look back, like if you're someone who enjoys like some of the like Radwood stuff and stuff from like the 80s and the 90s, like a radio upgrade, just to add a radio into those cars back then, if you adjusted for inflation, would be like $800 just to have a radio, not like to have a fancy premium stereo, just to have an FM radio in your car is like in today's money, like an $800 charge. Air conditioning, another thing that now is just standard. Everyone expects to have air conditioning. They used to be an upcharge. Sometimes it was 20% of your car's purchase price to, have air conditioning. And that would sometimes come out to be, $1,000 to get air conditioning in your car in the 80s, and now it's just standard equipment. And yet, when you adjust for inflation on what a Corolla costs now versus what it cost, again, in 2021 dollars back in 1985 or whatever, it's like very close in price. So you're getting so much more that I think actually cars are better value now in most cases. Obviously, there's outliers and stuff, but in a lot of cases, I think it's a better value now than they were way back then when you had no airbags, no safety tech, no technology, any of that kind of stuff. So just the basic safety stuff, plus the radio, plus the air conditioning, all these things, headlights that don't suck anymore. I mean, all this kind of stuff. I think that cars are actually really good value these days. And again, you just go back and look at the inflation. I know, obviously, as far as economics goes and stuff, everyone's not making more, and they're not keeping up with that inflation. And that's what makes cars feel more expensive, unfortunately, just because of the way the world works these days. But I think as far as the car companies and what they can do within their power, I think that cars are a really good value still currently. So very interesting question again. Kyle, thank you so much for the super chat here. He says, hey, Matt, are factory orders on cars worth it now, or just wait it out and see what comes in, specifically an LT1 Camaro? I think that especially these days, you're definitely better off ordering, because it's a couple reasons why. I mean, first off, there's a lot of dealers that are moving away from the whole inventory thing, and because that's a very American thing. Most other parts of the world, you always order your car, and so to have people will just show up and expect to find what they want on their local lot 5 miles away. I think just isn't going to be realistic anymore, especially with just these supply constraints that, they will get better, but I think that things have kind of changed for good in certain ways as far as dealerships go. And, a lot of dealerships were burned really badly last year, and obviously they're making up for it this year with the sky high prices. But I think especially as far as performance stuff goes, like your LT1 Camaro, 100% don't even bother, because, that's a vehicle they're making such small numbers these days. And I think GM has even pulled some production so they can pull some chips from there and put them into other stuff like trucks and stuff that people actually want. I would 100% just order what you want and wait for it to come in. And that also means you get exactly what you want. I'm a big fan of ordering cars. We custom ordered Beth's Mercedes. Obviously, I custom ordered the Bullet. And, if you're fine road tripping and hunting down a vehicle out of state and things like that, you can find what you want potentially. But I think especially if it's a car you plan to keep for a little while, like my Bullet, to have my window sticker that says special order and to have every single thing I wanted on that car exactly the way you wanted it, and this to say that you ordered that car, you kind of created that car, so to speak. I just think it's kind of a cool experience. So yeah, I think, and it's also kind of fun because you kind of like can follow the progress, and it's like Christmas whenever it comes, so I'd say go and place the order. Rye, thank you so much for a super chat here. He says 2021 Veloster and updates really worth it. Those seats, I can only find 2019, 2020s in my budget, and don't think any of the updates are a deal breaker. Yeah, honestly, the seats are cool looking, but if you watch my 2021 Veloster N video, those seats, in my opinion, aren't as comfortable as the previous generation seats. I think, the tough thing is, again, the used market right now. So, from what I saw, Veloster N's, even 2019s or 2020s, at least in my area, are going for really close to new money. So if you can find one that's a decent discount, I'd say, yeah, don't be worried about going for an older one for sure. I think the older ones are just as much fun. And yeah, I don't think, like the no grin shift thing and all that is cool with the dual clutch, So I guess if you're shopping for an older one, you're going for a manual, because otherwise, if you go for a 2021 with the manual, you lose out on all that stuff anyway. All those toys and stuff are only on the automatic now. So I think, yeah, just go for a 19 or a 20 if you can get a good deal on one, and don't look back. Yeah, because the seats, you have to sit in the seats yourself. They might feel fine to you. Definitely worth checking out. But I'd say, yeah, there's no problem getting a 19 or a 20 if you can get a good deal. But good luck shopping for one. And thank you for the super chat. Blueco, thank you so much for another super chat. He says, would I be okay in a Pittsburgh winter with snow tires on my 06 Camry? Is it a pain to switch wheels when the weather is bipolar in the spring? So yeah, that's kind of the tricky thing, is in the spring. You're going to have to roll the dice at least a few days, because we always seem to have, like, the first week of May, we get a snow. It's so bizarre and stupid, but we always get it without fail. And you can't wait until May to like swap off your snow tires, because they'll just be burning like crazy, during all spring. But so yeah, I think you'll be fine with snow tires on an 06 Camry for the winter. I drove around my BRZ and my EcoBoost Mustang and even the GTs with snow tires on them all through the winter. I didn't have a long commute, but I, would still drive around places, and especially with the BRZ, I was driving the wheels off of that thing. So, I drove that a lot in the snow, and that was rear-wheel drive, and I still was fine. So I think you'll be okay in the Camry. I don't know if that generation Camry had any kind of limited slip diff or anything. So if you're running an open diff, that might be a little bit tricky. But aside from that, I think, you should be fine. Snow tires make the biggest difference. And I think with that, you should be able to get around just fine. So I think you'll be good. Yeah. And Dawson, thank you for a super chat. He says, I do that with the BRZ in Buffalo. Works great. Yeah, you're brave in Buffalo. You got a lot of snow in Buffalo. So that's awesome. You drive your BRZ and all that snow. That's sweet. But yeah, snow tires are the best. Dom, thank you so much for a super chat. He says, I hope you do a car hunting series. Yeah, we might. It's just that we've already narrowed it down. He says, what car are you most looking for in 2021, 2022? The car hunting thing, we'll have to see. It's one of those things. I don't know if it'll be super relatable, since we're looking for very specific things that maybe not a lot of other people are looking for. But it still might be an interesting thing to do. So I'm still trying to brainstorm again how we're going to do that whole thing. But as far as cars I'm looking forward to next year, Nissan Z for sure is one of them, partially because it's just super hyped up right now. And I'm going to be very curious to see how it lives up to the hype. Not only my own hype, but also with everyone else. Since everyone is talking about the Z like it's the 2020 Corvette. Whenever that came out, it was like the best car in the world. No one's ever going to beat it. Everyone's talking about it. And everything you talked about, every single review I did, they were like, well, but yeah, you can get a Corvette for $60,000. So why are you even talking about this sports car or whatever? And the Z has been that car this year where everyone's like, well, yeah, the 86 is cool, but what about the Z? Or the Super's cool, what about the Z? Or hey, the F-150 is cool, but what about the Z? Or whatever. People were really excited about that. So I'm curious to see what happens next year with the Z and all that. Other than that vehicle, other stuff next year. I mean, again, if they do actually come out the Mustang on time, that would be another thing I'm excited about. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'd be curious to hear what some vehicles are that you guys are excited for next year. There's a bunch of stuff obviously coming. I just trying to think of stuff off the top of my head is always tough because there's so many new cars out there constantly. I think, yeah, I'm excited for a lot of the new electric stuff. I think that's really the thing that's coming out really fast, So all those things that are coming towards the end of this year, early next year, it'd be very cool to see, how that all develops and how they all do, the Ioniq 5, the Kia EV6 GT, which is a 3.5 second 0 to 60. Like that's going to be really sweet to try out. There's going to be all kinds of stuff like that I'm excited to see. Christian, thank you so much for the super chat. He says, do you have any info on the next gen Ford Ranger? Nothing in a while. I covered it, I don't know, probably several months ago in the weekly update, but basically, and I just actually talked about, they started officially teasing the next gen Ranger, and I talked about that a week or two ago. But there hasn't really been any new info on it aside from just showing what it looks like in camo. And we kind of saw leaks about a year or so ago anyway that seemed to be pretty accurate based on those camo shots. But basically, it's going to have much more blocky styling and, have some F-150 inspired headlights, I think. Other than that, we know there's going to be a Raptor version this time around here in the States finally, which will be good. Other than that, it's obviously going to have all the new tech and stuff you get in other Fords. That's probably all that I know as of right now. So we'll have to see. I mean, I believe they said they're revealing it. I can't remember when the reveal was. I think it's coming here in the next month or so, I think. So should at least, and that's for the European reveal. Hopefully we'll get all the US stuff around the same time, but shouldn't be too much longer to wait for that. Thank you again for the super chat. Robert, thank you so much for a super chat. He says, I enjoyed your rant video on the new WRX. Yeah, cheers. I would have totally been drinking that video, by the way, if it had not been filmed in the morning. And I probably should have said that in the video. It would have been funny. But oh yeah, that one, I could have used a drink because I think I was a little intense in that video, but I was just being honest, that was rough. Yeah, like I said, it was even worse than I was expecting it to be. But yeah, the MG Criminal says, I'm like, oh, Matt has whiskey, this is gonna be bad. Yeah, that weekly update was hilarious to do. That it was just like so many bad news stories, and it was a lot of fun. So I don't want there to be bad car stories, but yeah, whenever there's gonna be a bunch grouped together again, I am definitely going to do that again because it was a lot of fun to drink during the weekly update. All right, so Jesus says, glad Camaro 2022 has color options interior, but red/blue with red mats would have been a great option. Yeah, I mean, I think, especially that's one thing with the new Z, they're offering like that bright blue interior and stuff. I think colorful interiors are really cool. Genesis is doing that a bunch with like the new, GV70. You can get in like so many different interior colors. There's like a burgundy, there's a dark green, all these different colors for the interior and the exterior. I think make things colorful. I'm so tired of all the, whites, blacks, grays, silvers, every shade in between of those. It's just like so boring. Like any color is good in my opinion. Any color. I don't care what color it is. It can be baby poop brown. At least it's a color, like it's just going to like parking lots and seeing the sea of gray is just like, just the worst. But yeah, so as far as, interiors and stuff, yeah, I hope that, they offer more exciting stuff on the Camaros, maybe some special editions, things like that'll be cool to see. Luco, thank you so much for another super chat. He says, I hope the next Tacoma improves the transmission. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do. Since they have such a strong manual take rate, I'm guessing they will keep the manual around. But who knows? That's kind of getting harder and harder to do these days, since a lot of these companies don't like pairing the manual with all the safety tech. So we'll have to see what they do with that. I hope that they improve the transmission. I'm guessing it's probably going to get the same, 10 speed or whatever that the Tundra is running. Because the 6-speed auto in that thing definitely needs to go. It's not a great transmission, but it's a truck, so you can kind of cut some slack. So Shifty Super Studios says the Subaru Crosstrek is their first car. That's a great first car. Not too much power or anything. Very safe and, still a fun little vehicle, especially if you get it with a manual. But CVT is okay. At least, I talked about this, can't remember when, but I was talking recently about how some CVTs are really unpredictable, like the Volkswagen Taos, where it's like all over the place. Actually, that was a normal automatic, but it felt worse than a CVT. But like with the Crosstrek, at least the CVT is predictable in that, so you can at least, not have a weird experience after you get used to it, for a few miles. But congrats on having the Crosstrek as your first car. I kind of is similar to my first car. I had a Super Impreza Outback Sport. It was a 1997 model, which was like the precursor to the Crosstrek. And that was a really fun little car. Fayazi, thank you so much for the super chat. He says, any new info on LCF or development of a Lexus twin turbo V8? Would be cool, but sort of lost hope. There was, when was that? A few months back, there was the patent drawings, I believe, that were posted or leaked out of a twin turbo V8 still that Toyota, I believe, is working on. If they're bothering to patent stuff and it was really detailed and everything, I'm hoping that, they are still doing that. Whether it goes into an LCF, I don't know. I think they realize that everyone is so in love with the naturally aspirated V8 that there's no rush to swap in a twin turbo V8 and that stuff. But I think a twin turbo V8 would make sense for, like the LX and the GX and stuff like that. But they could get away with the same power plant as the Tundra now and just, all do twin turbo V6 with a hybrid thing. That certainly would follow along with what, Ford and Lincoln and all those types of, companies are doing, where you can't get a V8 anymore. So doing a twin turbo V8 these days, I kind of am losing hope a little bit. I'm right there with you. But I don't know. It's hard to say because there's been strong evidence that they're still working on one. What they use it for, I don't know. But we'll have to see. But I don't have any new info, unfortunately. I haven't heard anything about that recently. The LCF's been like on again, off again for years now, so I don't know what's going to happen with that. But anyway, Dr. Kiyoshi's asking, where do you get the model cars? So some of them, like the Chiron back there, is a Lego vehicle, and that was actually from the Lego partnership video that I did, and I got to keep that, and that was fun to build. The other models, though, is just it's a collection of a bunch of stuff. So some of them, like that middle row of all the classics and stuff, those actually are inherited from my grandfather, who had a bunch of those and handed them down to me. He collected them there, I believe, Danbury Mint or something. It was one of those like mail order things way back when. So that's what some of those are. Some of the other ones I just bought over the years, like the Fast and Furious Supra and stuff down there, is from just when I was a kid, and I got them at wherever I got them from, Toys R Us or something like that. And then like some of them, like the little Civic Type R and the little case down there, that was actually from a press drive I was on. There's also like this is actually, I'll grab this. This is kind of cool. I don't know. You guys probably never saw this because you can never see close up in my weekly updates, but this is actually a paperweight that I got on the GT500 launch that I did, and it's super heavy, but it's an actual like model of the supercharger. And so I keep that with my drag times from whenever I ran the GT500 for the review. So that's over there. But so some of these things are knickknacks from press trips that they give us cool stuff. And then some of the other ones I just bought, like the Ferrari FXXK, the 4GT up there. I just bought those at Sam's Club. They had a sale one day. So I just kind of pick them up from all over the place. It's kind of an assortment of everything. But this I really love it. This is like a must keep forever kind of thing. But So yeah, cool question. Smile per Mile is asking, "Hi Matt, what are you thinking of, or are you thinking of checking out James Bond's No Time to Die?" 100%. I am super excited for that. And yeah, I don't make it to movies very much these days, but that is a movie I'm very, very much excited for. And I'm a huge Bond fan. As you can see, I even have, you probably can't see, but that book is James Bond cars. I have a bunch of James Bond memorabilia and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm very, very excited for the new movie. It's been a long wait, but Daniel Craig, hands down, is my favorite James Bond, and this being his last movie and stuff, it's like an epic, monumental moment for me. So, very excited. Hopefully, you're excited about it too. Um, Linda, thank you so much for the super sticker. I really appreciate it. If you have any questions, I'll try and keep an eye out for them. But thank you so much for the generous super sticker there. I really appreciate it. Dom, thank you. Another question here. He says, "Cheers. I miss your off-topic videos, dash cam, and what happened to my car. When you would track your old car's VIN." Yeah, that was a fun video to do. It's always sentimental to kind of look back on the old cars and see where they're at and stuff. I actually had another video in that Carfax series I was thinking about doing, and I might still do it this winter. I can see, I'll be curious to hear what you guys think about this idea. I'm thinking about running Carfaxes on a bunch of the old press cars that I've had, because I save a lot of the window stickers and I have the VIN numbers for them, and I can run Carfaxes because a lot of people wonder like what happens to press cars after they're done in their press fleets and stuff, or just what happens to some of the sweet cars that I've driven over the years and reviewed. So if you'd like to see that, I can do that. I have run Carfaxes on some of them just to kind of see. There hasn't been anything too crazy, so it might be a boring video. There's nothing like catastrophic or anything. Like no one died in any of the cars that I've reviewed or anything. But it might be a fun video. So let me know if that's something you guys would be curious. So Dom's in, so that's cool. But if any of you also would like to see that, let me know, and maybe I'll do that here if I get a break this winter where I have a week or two of not having to post a vehicle. That's the thing right now. I got so many offers to review people's cars even nearby that I haven't had a chance to do, because I have like a 2-month backlog right now of cars that I've filmed a month or two ago that still won't be getting posted until November. So I'm like way behind. So I just have to, churn out these videos and get this backlog down a little bit. But it's a good problem to have for sure. Brandon says, "Matt, I just picked up a 2006 WRX with 116,000 miles. Should I send it straight to a shop to get timing belt, head gasket, water pump done? Thanks. Wanted to keep the longevity of the car." So I'm not an expert on WRXs anymore, so my info might be a little bit out of date. But I think, I don't know if you've done an inspection on it to see how that stuff's looking, like a leak down kind of test, anything like that. But I mean, it's never a bad idea to do that kind of maintenance, especially if stuff like the timing belt doesn't look brand new. That's kind of a better safe than sorry thing if you have the money to spend. Because it's just, I mean, the head gasket and stuff, I mean, that can wait, if you're not too worried about those things failing down the road. But the timing belt is something you definitely want to do if there's any doubt, for sure, just because if that thing pops, there goes the motor. So I'd at least do the timing belt and see about the other stuff. But congrats on the new WRX. Those 06s were always my favorite. That was always the plan, was for me to buy an 06 WRX as my first car that I bought out of high school. And then it just turned out that the 06 Spec B Legacy GT that got traded in at the dealership I worked at was the same price. And I was like, well, I can have more horsepower and more luxury for the same money. So I went for it. But there's still a part of me that wishes I had actually owned a WRX at some point in my life before they got to what they are these days. But yeah, congrats on that. Luco, thank you so much for another super chat here. He says, "Is it hard for you to maintain self-control with all the vehicles you drive, not wanting to buy everything up for yourself?" Yeah, I mean, I think I've gotten better with the self-control as far as the vehicles themselves and just driving them, because I, get a lot of really fast stuff. And I think I'm pretty good with my self-control of, actually driving them responsibly and stuff. Knock on wood, never had any accidents or anything like that. No speeding tickets either in a press vehicle. But, as far as having to resist the urge to not buy stuff, if I had unlimited money and I was doing this job, yeah, there'd be a lot of vehicles that I'd just be like, you know what, I really love this. I'm going to go place an order for one of these things. There's so many cars like that that, there's been a lot, especially in the past few years, where I really don't want to give the keys back. And it's I watch the car drive away and I'm like, oh man, I'm going to miss it. There's some really fun ones in there for sure. So, yeah, but Anyway, thank you so much for the super chat there. And yeah, I'm still trying to find a way to justify a GR86. I would love to have one alongside the Bullet, but I can't justify or afford two-door manual transmission hardtop sports cars that are just for me to just have fun with, because I don't even have time to drive the Bullet half the time. Linda, thank you so much for their super chat. She says the super chat money is for the baby. I'm new at this and missed the message option. Thank you. Sorry to do another one there, but I really appreciate it. And yeah, the baby's doing great. Thank you for the super chat money. I really appreciate it. Those diapers, we're going through them quickly, so it always helps for sure. So thank you. Duality says, "Hey Matt, what are your thoughts on the future of Cadillac? I feel like the Blackwings being the last ICE cars was a mistake, and they don't have much to show for an electric future." I mean, they're coming out with stuff really quickly, though. I mean, like the Lyric, I think they didn't say how many they were building in the launch edition version, but they sold out of the launch edition within, I think they said 10 minutes for the Lyric. So I think there's certainly some demand there. And that's coming, I think, at the end of 2022. So it's not that far out. We have this year, and I mean, the Blackwings just went into production. So basically, by the time the Blackwings, are done with their first model year, you're going to have the Lyric out, and the Blackwing will last for several model years as well. So it's not like it's a 1 year thing. So I think they have some time here, and so I don't know. I think the future of Cadillac and all of GM will be very interesting to see. Them kind of drawing that line in the sand as far as switching over to all electric in 2035, which again, long time away. We'll see what happens, but there's still plenty of time. I think they're on a hot streak with the Escalade. They're doing a really good job with all their new products. And I also have to commend them so much for sticking around with the sedans and offering, the awesome performance variants for them and everything, having the manuals available. I mean, I think Cadillac is right now, one of the coolest car brands as far as luxury sports sedans go and stuff. And I think they have a good future. I mean, it's going to be hard for all companies to diversify and set themselves apart in this electric world where everything sounds the same and everything drives basically the same. It's really, and this is why you're seeing everyone being focused on the user experience and having a bunch of toys and gimmicky things as far as styling and stuff to set it apart, because that's all you're going to be buying a vehicle based on is the interior and maybe the outside to make a statement. But everything's going to be silent. Everything's going to be, at least the way everything's planned to be going, it's not going to be very much to differentiate. And that's a huge problem for brands like Lamborghini and Ferrari, where it's like, okay, well, cool. You can keep up with a plaid, Tesla Model S. Great. You have cool styling. Cool. What else is there? So I think, I'm really hoping the synthetic fuel thing is kind of the savior of sports cars, at least, and something that if all the commuters are in electric stuff, fine. But at least if we can keep, some of the, performance stuff around on a small scale, for those of us who don't mind paying $8 a gallon or whatever it ends up being for synthetic fuel, I think that's a decent compromise. So we'll see. But in the meantime, I'm just very thankful that Cadillac keeps all the awesome stuff around. Jesus is asking, is the Bullet Mustang your daily? It is, whenever I do have the chance to actually have a daily, because I, usually have press vehicles. I haven't had any in the past few weeks, so I've actually been able to drive the Bullet like a normal person drives their car every day. So that's been fun to slowly rack up miles little by little on it again. But it's also, I work from home. I don't have a very active social life because I'm working so much, and also, with COVID times and stuff and the baby, it's hard to get out of the house and stuff. So there's a lot of reasons why I don't really go very many places. So I don't have very many reasons to drive anyway. So that's why the Bullet's still sitting at 16,000 miles. Trust me, I wish it was 60,000 miles, but it's unfortunately just the way my life is these days. I don't have anywhere to go. I have no commute. I'm close to all the grocery stores and stuff. So there's just very few opportunities to put miles on cars. So that's why doing the press vehicles, there's sometimes where I just like hop in the car and I just aimlessly drive around, just put miles on it. Because if I don't, it'll be like, well, I drove this vehicle for 25, 30 miles. And it's like, cool. Like everyone else does that in a test drive. That's nothing special. So I have to get it over at least 100 miles to get a better feel for it and stuff. So it's kind of an odd thing. I'm in this weird predicament where my entire job is driving cars, but I have nowhere to drive cars most of the time. So that'll change here once once our daughter starts being more active and we start taking her places and doing things, and hopefully we'll start having a lot more miles and excuses to drive. Dom, thank you so much for super chat again here. He says, is there no car you would trade for the Bullet? I know you've said no, but still. Yeah, not within reason. If someone said they would trade their Ferrari 812 GTS for my Bullet, yes, I would trade the Bullet for it. But in any kind of rational world with someone who isn't completely crazy, yeah, there's no way I would ever get rid of the Bullet. I that's just why I want to add cars. I definitely want to keep the Bullet. I would love to someday, add a few classic cars, add a few sports cars, convertibles, things like that. But yeah, as far as stuff I would trade it for, yeah, there's nothing. And that's something that came up again whenever I did the GT350 review. And it's like, nope. Someone could say, I'll trade you dead even GT350 for Bullet. I'd say no. Same thing, GT500. If someone said, hey, I'll take your Bullet for my GT500, I'd say no. Like, I love the Bullet that much. And I know some people would think I'm crazy and want to, bash me over the head for that. But yeah, I love the Bullet that much. It's just a sentimental thing. And it's just the perfect car to me. Robert, thank you so much for the super chat. He says, opinion, what is the worst paint color on any car? Probably, there's one I saw just the other day and I was like, man, that is terrible, but I can't remember. I'm not a big fan of that highlighter green color on the new M3. I think that's kind of just not going to age very well. But aside from that, there was something else though, but I can't remember what it was. I think the goldish color on the Sonatas recently isn't a great color either. I respect them for having the bravery to offer it, but I just don't think it's a good looking color. But that's probably it. I mean, in history, there's been several terrible colors, but as far as newer cars go, I think those are some of the ones that stand out to me the most. HCC Math says Audi's new green. I'm not sure if I've seen their new green. They're forest greens they have are really nice. They're dark green stuff. The AMG Criminal says blue is the worst color. I love blue cars though. I mean, some blues are boring, but I love the bright ones. World Rally Blue is always going to hold a place in my heart. Cadillac had the pink color that was ugly to me. Yeah, you get the Mary Kay Cadillacs. Those have the light pink as well. Green on the Chevy Sonic. Yeah, there's some other colors. Yeah, William says you can get the e-tron GT in piss yellow. Yeah, that probably would be a bad color. Yeah, that's one I've seen recently that hasn't been a good color. Orange RDX today, that was awful, Robert says. That's actually a very rare spotting though, because that's an Orange RDX is the PMC edition, which I believe they only made 300 or 200 of those, and they're hand built in the NSX factory. So that's actually pretty sweet. You saw a PMC, but I get it. Orange on an RDX, probably not great. Although we're coming up on Halloween, so it's really kind of spot on for the season. So at least they have that going for them. But yeah, I don't think I could rock an orange RDX. That'd be tough. Copper color on the previous Gen X3. Yeah, BMW kind of takes some chances with colors, and a lot of times they don't pay off. James says, hi, Matt. Do you reckon there will be a smaller Porsche Taycan with similar dimensions to the 3 Series? We have narrow roads in the UK, so it'd be nice to have a more compact EV that weighs less. I think they're doing it. There's rumors of something like that under development. I think they're going to have to be careful with the Taycan because it's not a very big vehicle. It's big as far as its dimensions, but on the inside, a lot of people have said it's kind of a little bit cramped. So it's really going to be tricky to shrink it without making it look ugly and still have a usable interior on the inside. But I think they do want to have something at a lower price point. And so, we'll see what they do, but there has been talk of them doing something like that. So we'll see how soon it comes, but I think Porsche would probably like to do something like that. Duality says the Mitsubishi Mirage came in a weird berry pink / purplish color. Yeah, the Mirage comes in a bunch of interesting colors. There's that. They had a magenta or something for a while. There was some really bold colors for the Mirage. And I'm trying to think. There's a few other weird colors for the Mirage in the past that were crazy. But anyway, Luke, thank you so much for another super chat. He says, my stepdad passed earlier this year. I'm sorry to hear that. And he says he left me a 1994 BMW motorcycle that's like my version of your Bullet. Wouldn't trade it for anything. Yeah, that's just some stuff like that. That is just a sentimental thing, that to other people they're like, yeah, so what? But to you, it's like it's the greatest thing in the world, and that's the Bullet for me. The Bullet was always my dream car. I loved the movie. I'm into the whole Steve McQueen thing and that whole cheesy part. I think it's just the perfect color. I just was admiring. I had it out today to run some errands, and it was a bright sunny day. And with that color in the sun, it's still, after 3 years, it is 100 out of 100 in my opinion. It just looks so good. I love that thing so much. So yeah, totally. I'm glad someone else understands the sentimental thing is very strong for sure. And also, especially something like that that's passed down, it's a memory thing as well, and honoring their memory, and it's something that they enjoyed, and that makes it even that much better too. Dom, thank you so much for another super chat. He says, if you hold on to your Bullet, it might be worth an exotic. Yeah, I mean, as of right now, I mean, like I talked about in my 3-year update video, I could sell that car for basically what I paid for it, which is just crazy that it's, 3 years later. I mean, this is a lot of vehicles that are like this, where, you can basically sell them back for what you paid or make money on them. And yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens. Maybe in 50 years or something, if my daughter doesn't care and she wants to sell it and it's worth a bunch of money, Barrett Jackson or whatever, that'd be cool. But I think the Bullets, they might be a little bit collectible, but they're no Shelby. The Shelbys are always the ones to go for big money. If you look back at history, the other special editions and stuff, they went for decent money depending on the options, but they didn't go for crazy money. And Bullets historically, when you look at the 01s and the 08s, I mean, they hold their value a lot better than a regular Mustang, but again, they don't hold their value as well as a Shelby. So I'm not expecting anything out of the Bullet as far as investment stuff goes. But yeah, I mean, these days with everything, just having a manual V8, that's going to be a collectible thing, just regardless of what it's in, in 20 or 30 years probably. So crazy times. So HCC Math says, what do you think of the FF versus the RS7? Well, I mean, you'll hear all my thoughts on the RS7 this week when I post the video, but I've never driven an FF, but you have a naturally aspirated Ferrari V12, it'd be FF all day for me. I know, it'd be way older than the brand new RS7. 100%. If it were my money, I'd go for an FF for sure. If you're not super worried about all the new tech and stuff like that, yeah, FF hands down. That's another dream car for me. Someday, if I'm ever hitting the lottery or something, I would love to have a GTC4 Lusso, the newer version of the FF, because it's like, especially now that I have a daughter, it's the perfect family vehicle. It's a 2-door, but you have a huge back seat, you have all-wheel drive, and a V12, and it's a hatch, so it's practical. That's honestly, I think those are some of the coolest cars of all time, because it's just an amazing combo that no one else has ever offered, no one else ever will offer. And I think that's, if you're talking about investment things, I think that FFs, and maybe, they won't ever be appreciated, but I think that could be a car that someday could be red hot when people finally are like coming to their senses, like, what were we doing? We could get all-wheel drive with a naturally aspirated V12 and a hatchback. I think those are the coolest things ever. So another question, hey Matt, Porsche Cayman 981 or Lexus RC 200T? Very different experiences. Obviously being mid-engine and front engine. The RC is all about luxury too. I mean, even the RCF is a little bit on the softer side. It's a great, sports car, but it's still a little bit softer. But as far as 200T goes, I mean, the Cayman's going to be a lot faster, even a base Cayman. And the Cayman's a real sports car. It's smaller, it's sharper, it's lighter by a lot. It's a lot less luxurious too. If I was going on a road trip, I'd definitely want to be in the RC, but for every other instance, I'd want to be in the Cayman. So between those two, I think I'd probably go Cayman again, unless you do a ton of highway miles or you just want something super comfortable and you need a back seat, things like that. Then, I'd say RC, but otherwise Cayman all day for sure. Colton Does Cars says, hey Matt, you're one of my original inspirations to start my channel back in 2014. I just recently decided to give YouTube another shot, so thank you for the inspiration. Well, thank you for letting me be an inspiration. That's awesome, and I hope that you have some good luck with your channel. it's tough these days. I mean, even back in 2014, there was it was tough even back then, but these days there is a lot of competition. And that's something that even my channel, struggles with too. I don't get the amount of views that I used to get just because everyone's got a lot more options these days. And a lot of the new channels have better videography. They have probably funnier hosts and, a lot of other things, crazier cars, there's a lot of different things. And so, it's something that's tough, because I'm someone who doesn't have a background in video. I don't, have the money to pay an editor to do really fancy edits or have a full film crew or, fancy cameras and, 5 drones and things like that. So, it's tough to compete, and I wish you the best of luck. I think the great thing with YouTube though is that if you have a unique idea and you have a personality that resonates with people, and you're passionate about it, that's all it takes. There's no barrier to entry. There's nothing that you have to really worry about. That's the great thing with YouTube is it's leveled everything. The playing field is leveled, and that's what even gave me this opportunity. I originally went into college doing finance because in 2008 you couldn't make money on YouTube really, and so it was like, well, if I want to review cars, I got to work at a car magazine, and they have very low turnover. They make very little money, and it was just kind of really tough to get into. And then with YouTube, it was like, oh wait, I can just like use a GoPro and post videos and no one can stop me. And that's kind of the cool thing with YouTube. So yeah, good luck with it. And yeah, you just got to find something that helps you to stand out. That is really the tough thing these days, is just standing out and getting people to want to actually watch your stuff. And that also goes back to thumbnails. I mean, there's some YouTubers, they spend more time on the thumbnail than on the actual video just to try and get you guys to click. Like that is how intense it is for a lot of these channels. And there's a lot of options out there for everyone, and everyone doesn't have a lot of time these days. So trying to spend your valuable time and get that that click and that watch is tough. So it's that's one of the reasons why, like I said, I fully recognize this might not last forever. I will do it as long as I possibly can. But if everyone else has top gear quality videos, I'm not going to be able to compete. And so we'll just see how long it lasts. But I love doing it, and hopefully I can do it forever. I don't ever plan to retire, but I might be forced to if the views continue to drop someday. But hopefully they don't, and things continue to do well. Dom, thank you so much for another super chat. He says, I get sentimental value. Wanted to pick your brain. Yeah, well, thank you for picking the brain there. Great questions. And yeah, we're halfway into the live stream here. Hopefully you guys are enjoying it. And move on to the next question here. Robert says, with the Kia Stinger GT possibly being killed off next year, what would you have liked to see in a second-gen Stinger? I think for me, I would have liked to see a more character-filled exhaust. I've heard supposedly with the 2022s, it has the active exhaust, just like the G70 that I reviewed, but it doesn't have as much sound as I think people are wanting. I would love to see them really kind of use some of that N tech that you get in the Veloster N and put that kind of stuff in a Stinger. Give it, really advanced adaptive dampers. Give it, the active exhaust that crackles and pops and goes crazy. Give it, all the toys that you get in the Veloster N, stuff like that. That's what I would love to see in a Stinger. Now, there's talks that they might actually keep the Stinger name around, but it'll be for an electric vehicle that kind of carries the torch, possibly. They're going to have a very fast electric sedan hatch thing, possibly, which, again, even if it's not called Stinger, it'll kind of be the spiritual successor to the Stinger. It's going to be electric. It'll be, very fast, I'm sure. Probably even if it just uses the EV6 GT powertrain, you're still looking at a 3.5 seconds 0 to 60 car. So it'd be blowing the doors off a regular Stinger. But, I don't, we'll just have to see how sporty that kind of stuff is. Luke, thank you so much for a super chat. He says, you, Alex on Autos, Redline, and TFL are my favorites. Yeah, they're all awesome, and we're all, good friends. It's always great hanging out with all of them on press trips and stuff. It was a lot of fun. Even just, because I was able to hang out with Alex on the BRZ launch, and Sophion actually as well from Redline and TFL. I get to, bump into them a good bit as well, and they're all great guys. So that's one of the best parts about doing this job, even if the views and stuff drop, just the people that you get to hang out with, the people you meet, the experiences, obviously, it is a dream job for sure. That's why I hope it never ends. But Um, Josh is asking, Matt, can you please review the Ford Ranger Tremor Lariat? There have been some Tremors floating around the press fleet, so I'm not sure if there's one in my press fleet yet, so we'll have to see. I would be open to doing another Ranger. I think the Tremor trim would be kind of lost on me though, because I never do any kind of off-roading in my reviews. And I already covered the Ranger with, I believe, an XLT trim that I did, a couple years back. But yeah, I think at this point, I'm mostly just waiting for the next gen Ranger since it seems to be so close, just a few months away, most likely. So that's probably it. I mean, if they send one in the press fleet, I might be up for it. We'll just have to see, what they send me. It's very hit or miss with the press fleets. There's so many things that I beg and beg and beg for, and they never show up. And there's other things where I'm like, okay, I'll take it just because it happens to be in the fleet. So it's kind of hard to predict what I'm going to get sometimes. Super 4 Certified says, have you driven a ZHP recently? If so, has it changed your opinion? I'm guessing you're talking about the ZHP BMW 330s from the E46 generation. If so, I have not driven one since that review that I did. Again, that was another very early, very cringy review from 8 or 9 years ago now at this point. Not driven one since. So I'd be curious to test one out. I did do the E46 M3 a couple years back, and that was kind of cool, but have not done the ZHP. The AMG Criminal, thank you so much for their super chat. They're asking E63 S Wagon or RS6 Avant. I would go RS6 Avant just because I think it just has some cooler tech. I haven't driven an E63S, so I can't comment. But based on what I experienced in the RS7, which again you'll see this week, that same package but with a wagon shape sounds good to me. It's one of the ultimate family, daily driver vehicles. Again, if you're not going for stuff like the Ferrari FFs and stuff, RS6 Avant would be a killer daily driver vehicle if you're someone who needs the all-wheel drive, or even if you don't, and just want a sweet wagon. I hope those RS6 Avants sell really well because it was really brave of Audi to finally give us the wagon, and I really hope that it's a resounding success for them so that they continue to bring wagons here. Dustin says, "What's up, Matt? Hope your new addition to the family are well." Yeah, everyone's doing great. Thank you for asking. It's been a really fun adventure here with our daughter. She's awesome. Every single day is just a blast, and we're loving every minute of it. It's a lot of fun. The AMG Criminal says, it would be tough for me because you probably know where my preferences lie. Yeah. And I think as far as, AMG, they have a lot going for them because, you have, I think, the engine that has more crackles and pops. The RS models are all about the turbo whooshiness and stuff like that. So E63 might have more character. I think in the E63 obviously has a ton of tech and stuff that's really cool too. So there's a lot to like about both. Those two cars, you cannot lose either way. Flip a coin, they're both going to be fantastic. The fact that if those are the two vehicles you're actually considering, there's no wrong choices there. They're both going to be amazing vehicles, and you'll have a blast in either one of them. They're both miles better than all the other, lifted enormous SUV crap that AMG and Audi are also putting out. I would take, those two wagons hands down over any kind of RSQ8 or any kind of, GLE 63 or any of that stuff. Give me the wagons all day, every day. Colton Does Cars, thank you so much for a super chat here. He says, I feel the sentimental thing. I have a 97 Dakota my dad bought me for $400. Even though it's a rusty pile, I won't let myself get rid of it. I don't think you should. Yeah, I mean, it's anything that's sentimental like that, unless you are forced to get rid of it or you really, really, just need the money or something. I mean, there's reasons why people do get rid of that stuff, but almost everyone universally regrets getting rid of anything that they're sentimental about. I mean, obviously you don't want to be a hoarder either, but I think something like that, your dad bought it for you, has a sentimental thing to it. And I mean, even my first car, it wasn't anything special, but it was my first car. And, at some point, I just wish that I still had it, or I kind of threw it in a shed and forgot about it or something, instead of just knowing that it's now rotting in a junkyard or might be crushed already and have already been turned into a refrigerator or something, So it's definitely something I would say, yeah, if you can at all hang on to stuff you're sentimental about, hang on to it. And especially these days, if it's something sporty, for sure, it could be worth big money, down the road whenever people are seeking out stuff that isn't silent and, an enormous smartphone on wheels. So yeah, but thank you again for the super chat. Brian says, do you think this all EV goal by 2030 is realistic? I think 2030 is more of a European thing where some of them are going by 2030, like the UK, I believe. I mean, here in the States, it's 2035, so that's 5 more years. That is a little more realistic. I think the thing with the EV goal that is really hard for people to kind of, I guess, envision is the fact that, all these rules and all these regulations and all these things that are being proposed, which again means they can change. But even if they do stick to those things and they're really forcing everyone by 2035, the world will be a lot different in 2035. Everyone's looking at this and being like, well, yeah, but we can't leave our power on in California, or, we have power outages because of X, Y, and Z, or, things like that. It's like, yeah, well, we're not saying all EV in 2021. In 2021, that would be a catastrophe because, yes, everything is struggling with the grid right now and stuff. We're not talking about right now. So when you look at these rules and, oh, well, that's not going to work. Sure, it doesn't work in 2021, but 14 years is a lot of progress. 14 years ago, we didn't have iPhones or smartphones in general. We were still chilling with our Nokias and our, things like that, Palm Pilots and stuff 14 years ago. And look where we're at now and how much technology has just leapfrogged itself every single year. If you would have told someone 14 years ago, you're going to have this thing on my wrist that's, a smartwatch, and you're going to have these phones that have augmented reality. That was stuff, 2007, augmented reality was the stuff of Tony Stark and the original Iron Man. That was science fiction stuff. And now we have augmented reality in Audi's head-up displays, so, you look at this stuff that, back in 2007, if you were seeing Iron Man in theaters like I did as a teenager, you're like, whoa, that's crazy stuff. And now here we are, and it's a reality, and you can get it for, decent priced option on an Audi. And it's like, well, it's, not a big deal now. And so I think that people need to have a little bit of faith. I mean, yes, we don't know how technology is going to develop. We don't know what things are going to happen as far as the grid and energy generation and how all that stuff develops. We could have fusion power in 10 or 15 years and never have to worry about electricity again, and it'd all be super clean. And we have no clue. But I think just everyone's got to keep in mind these rules are not developed for 2021. So you cannot look at it with your current situation and say this isn't going to work. So that's my take on the whole electric thing. Obviously, I mean, I have my bullet. I'm going to keep my bullet forever. I'm not excited about, everything being totally silent, but I think that with the e-fuels and the synthetic fuels, I think that us enthusiasts hopefully will be able to still enjoy our stuff. It's not going to be the end of the world. We're not going to, end up in some type of crazy society where no one's allowed to have any fun. Like, I think that it's going to be okay, I think, is the end of the day. There's a lot of these really, really smart people that are car people as well. And they don't want to give up their Ferraris. They don't want to give up their Bugattis. They don't want to, and so they're working on this stuff. I mean, Porsche is the one developing e-fuels. Why? Because Porsche are, some of the ones that have some of the most to lose. If you can't have a GT3 with that glorious sounding engine, why are you buying a GT3? So, they're motivated. And whenever you have that motivation for people and you have the money behind it, things get done, So I think that we'll have the electric stuff for people who don't need anything sporty, and for all of us, we'll still be able to have fun. It might just cost a little bit more for gas and insurance, but I think that, it'll still be possible to enjoy our stuff down the road. But that's just my hunch. We'll see what happens. Anyway, long tangent. Sorry about that. But other stuff here. Jesus is asking, is the Corolla the best buy sedan overall, or Civic, Sentra, etc.? I actually think the Sentra is a little bit of a better value as far as just you're talking brand new sticker prices and stuff. I think the Sentra gives you a little bit more for your money. It's a more luxurious interior for less money than Corollas and Civics offer. So I think Sentra is probably still one of the best values. I think that also the Elantra and the Forte are also pretty solid values because they're even cheaper and you still have fairly nice interiors. But I think the Sentra has a nice blend of good tech, really nice luxury, and a really nice driving vehicle as well for not much money. I think, although, if you want something that's going to last you forever, get a Corolla and call it a day. That's just, nothing's going to beat a Corolla. Civic's kind of up in the air because they're all, turbo motors for those higher trims. If you go for a lower trim Civic with a naturally aspirated motor, that could last a long time as well and be a great value too. But I'd say, yeah, those are the top three for sure. But I think Sentra probably is a little bit of a better pick. But if I was keeping it 10 years, I would definitely go for a Corolla or a non-turbo Civic before I'd go for the Sentra. Because Sentra, we still have to wait and see with the CVT if they've improved it enough as far as reliability and stuff. But yeah, that's really the only unknown there. But anyway, hopefully that helps you with your search there. As far as they're all great little cars, though. I really think they've done such a good job on all the new compact sedans. Linda says, bye, Matt. My first new car was a Mustang. And when I bought my 2017 EcoBoost as my second Mustang and my daily, your reviews really helped me figure out my second Mustang. Well, I appreciate that. That is why I do this channel. I really thank you for joining and for watching the live stream here, Linda. And yeah, I mean, that's why I do this channel. I truly believe if everyone can find a car, even if you're not a car person, but even if you just enjoy your commute to work just a little bit, and you're not driving something that you absolutely hate to get into every day, your day is going to be a little bit better. It makes your life just a little bit better. And if I can help you guys find a vehicle in your price range that suits what you want and your needs, and it makes your life just a little bit better, that's what this is all about. And that's why I do this. I love doing it for that reason. And I like to think that hopefully I've helped a few of you find a car that you enjoy. Maybe you would have found it on your own anyway, but hopefully I kind of helped. Even in just a tiny little way. And so I really appreciate the comment, Linda. That really makes me feel great. And that's the kind of stuff that keeps me motivated to keep doing this stuff, regardless of the views and all that. It's great to, hear that, you really do help people. And so thanks for that. So we have another question here from Viathan. I think I probably butchered your username, but it says, Matt, I think you should start reviewing some older cars. Nobody can buy new cars in the current circumstances due to the chip shortages, lost jobs, etc. Yeah, I think, that's something that I'm still open to doing. I've done a lot of older cars or cars that I just have reviewed over the past 8 or 9 years that are now old cars that, used to be new. So I feel like I've got a lot of the good stuff covered over the past 10 years of cars. I'd love to do more classics and stuff like that. Just I don't get those kind of things offered to me as often, but I get, like doing a 10-year-old Corolla maybe would be of value to some people, things like that. And so, we'll see how things pivot. I think having the new stuff is kind of more fascinating to me because it's stuff that's new and exciting and no one really knows, what it's like and stuff. Like a 10-year-old Corolla, like, I could be helpful and I can, kind of walk through all the basic stuff on it and stuff, but it's not, I feel like, as illuminating as, some of the new stuff is, where I'm talking about all the new tech in the Civic or something like that. But I get that not everyone, can be into the new stuff. And so I hope that at least, some of the older stuff that I've done will help some of those people. Like, I've done the 2009 Honda Civic Si. I've done the 2012 or 2013 Civic Si. And those videos still hold up today. You can go back and watch those and see how much fun those cars are still. And, how, they're reliable and solid and, still have really good tech for the time, really safe for their time. And, those types of things hopefully help for sure. But I'm never opposed to doing vehicles that I think you guys would want to see, regardless of what it is. There's been a bunch of older cars that owners have offered me that I'm still waiting to review, like Accord Coupe V6 manual is like a very niche car, but I've got a lot of reviews for that. I've got a couple people that have offered them. I'm waiting to review them until things kind of get a little bit better and I'm able to travel more, with the baby and stuff like that. But there's a lot of older vehicles I still do want to get to that I think you guys would enjoy. So, stay tuned for that. Hopefully someday, if I can kind of get caught up with all the new stuff here, I can start working on some of the used stuff as well. Armando says, Matt Maran Gaming, ? Would love to watch you play some Forza Horizon. Yeah, I enjoyed Horizon whenever I had 4. I guess it was probably like last year, whenever we had a lot more free time. I got into that game a little bit there. I just have very little time, with the channel and stuff. It's just, and at this point, I'm so behind on all the games that I would, probably not be very good at them. And a lot of them are probably games that people probably don't even care about anymore. Like, I mean, Forza Horizon, I guess, is one that's still relevant. But like, so I actually was just, I was supposed to go to a bachelor party a couple of weeks ago, and they were gonna have like some gaming during part of it, and they were like, "Oh, these are all the games that we're gonna be like playing," and I'm like, "I've only heard of one of those 5 games," so I'm really out of the loop as far as the gaming world goes. So yeah, I'm probably not the best to do any kind of gaming stuff. It'd be fun, but yeah, as of right now, my Xbox is just sitting collecting dust. So haven't played anything in a little while, but I'd like to get back into it someday. I'm still waiting for them to do a new GTA. I'm like everyone else, like I love playing GTA 5 every once in a while, but it's like, man, this game is ancient now. Like, please, like, what is it gonna take for us to get GTA 6? Like it would just be that would be fun. That would be really something would be really fun to do, like a live stream, kind of just playing that, even though it's very violent and terrible. That could be a fun one, if there's ever a new GTA someday. Monopoly says their daily is a 2012 SI. They're the best. Yeah, those are such sweet cars. That motor, oh man, I really wish they would have kept that motor alive in the new SIs, because that is one of the all-time greatest motors in an affordable vehicle. So Brian says, coming from a 2017 STI, have a 2022 Civic Si on order. As an enthusiast, do you think it will be a step down or a lateral move? Lateral move seems fairly safe as far as my bets go. I don't know. I think it's interesting they let you place an order for an SI, since I didn't think that was even available to like order yet, because I don't think there's any info on them. I don't know really anything about it. I'm assuming it's coming soon, but I'll be curious to hear if your dealer said anything about when they're expecting it. But I'm worried it will be a lateral move and it'll be carryover motor, which would be fine if they maybe fix the rev hang a little bit. But especially coming out of a 2017 STI, you're going to miss, because like the STI doesn't really have rev hang. You have that really direct connection with the engine in the STI. The SI Civics are a little more disconnected, a lot more comfortable, really great handling still. We'll see what they do with the new version. I don't know. I mean, I'm guessing there's a reason why you're going for SI and you're not just grabbing a Type R, because I think the Type R would be a more, I guess a more enjoyable alternative, from an STI, because it'll have stuff you really enjoy. It still has a really direct connection, great razor sharp handling, similar amounts of power. I think if you're wanting to get into a Civic, I would definitely recommend the Type R. The Civic Si might be cool if you're, wanting to get better fuel economy, things like that. There's a bunch of reasons, I'm sure, as far as why you're going for an Si. But if you're worried about being a lateral move, just snatch up a Type R while you can and don't look back. I think they're fantastic. Actually, the person that I reviewed their GT350 a couple weeks ago, they actually picked up a Type R because their Mini Cooper S died, and they were like, "What do you think about the Type R?" Before they were thinking about buying it and stuff. And I was like, "They are fantastic cars," and he's loving it. He did a huge long road trip in it already, and he's just having a blast. And the Type R. So I think the Type R is one of the best vehicles in that segment. So if you haven't considered one, you probably already have, but if you haven't, definitely check one out. I think that would be a really, really sweet alternative to the STI. Heyo's asking, are you still excited for the new STI? I mean, I don't know. I'm very conflicted with Subaru right now, because I think they did a great job on the new BRZ. So I know, and I actually, on the BRZ launch event, I got to know some of the Subaru executives and some of the people behind the scenes that work on some of this stuff, and they're really great people. I got along with them great and stuff, and I know they can do really good stuff like the BRZ. And maybe the new WRX will be a better improvement in reality than it looks like on paper. But I just don't know about the STI. I don't know if they're going to have the investment there. I don't know if they care enough. I know that they all are enthusiasts, and all the people I know and have talked to at Subaru and they're internally, they're all enthusiasts that would love to see crazy stuff happen. But will it actually get greenlit by the accountants and the bean counters and all that kind of stuff, and the executives that just want to, do a million Outbacks and Ascents and Foresters? I don't know, because that's all the stuff that people want in a new STI, a dual clutch transmission, Subaru does not have. So to develop an entirely new dual clutch from the ground up, they can't even steal one from Toyota, because Toyota doesn't have one. So there's no way there's going to be a dual clutch in the STI. That would be a multi-billion-dollar investment as far as coming up with a brand new transmission for a very niche vehicle. And, unless they plan to get rid of the CVTs across the board and switch everything to DCT, get rid of the CVTs. I don't know, but I'm just saying temper your expectations. I think STI is going to be carryover transmission like the WRX is. So it'll be manual only. And some people said that's part of why there's the WRX GT, because that'll be like the Recaro seats, the adaptive suspension, which those two things will most likely be on the STI. They brought those down to the WRX only for the automatic one, so that people who want an automatic STI kind of have a midway point with the GT, and that, no one in their right mind would pay 40 grand for a WRX whenever you can get, an STI for probably around the same price, for a base model at least. So if that's the thinking behind the scenes, then, just be prepared. Carryover transmissions, engine will probably be a higher boosted version of the 2.4. So make of that, what you will. And then otherwise, I don't know with the STI, I mean, hopefully they paint the body panels so that, it doesn't look like it's trying to be a Crosstrek. And, otherwise, there's probably not a whole lot surprise wise to, really expect. So, I mean, sure, if they do a WRX that doesn't look like a Crosstrek, that has carryover transmissions and has over 325 horsepower, yeah, I'll be excited about it. I'm not going to run out to the dealer and order one, but I could see that being cool. It would be competitive with stuff like the Golf R and would be good. That's all I want Subaru to do, is just compete. Like, they don't have to break world records or anything, just compete. And I think the WRX is good, from a performance standpoint. You have the all-wheel drive. That's something you don't really get in anything else in that segment. And it's going to be, a solid performer, but I just want the STI to be the like Ferrari beater it was in 2004, and that's never going to happen anymore. But we'll see what they do. Mario says DCT the whole world. Yeah, except be careful what you wish for, because like the dual clutch in like the Hyundais and the Kias and stuff, especially like the one on the Veloster and stuff, it's not the best. So there's some cases where I honestly just wish they would just ZF 8-speed the whole world. Like, if you're gonna just give everyone, for every car company, the option between manual and ZF 8-speed automatic and call it a day. Because it's like, you have a fantastic automatic for those who actually want to do manual shifting and just want a snappy automatic. Everyone else, go for the manual and have your, transmission fun that way. But some DCTs are great. Like the GT500 one is fantastic. Corvette one's pretty good. But there's a lot that are still not great. But most of those are just the cost cutting ones where they're just using it because somehow it's cheaper. But anyway, Fastline says, do you think Carmax is a good place to buy vehicles? I don't have any experience with Carmax, so I'm not sure. I know obviously they've offered some people some pretty crazy offers. There's been all those YouTube videos several years back about people being like, I took my car to Carmax. Here's how much they offered me. But yeah, I have no experience with Carmax, so I'm not sure. Alex says, there apparently was a press photo of the new STI in Japan. Not sure how legit it is, but you should take a look. I'll have to check it out. If you don't mind, if you know where it's at, if you could send me the link or something in an email or Twitter or Instagram or something like that, I'd love to check it out. But I can also try and Google and search for something, because I haven't seen anything yet. But I mean, it's not hard to envision probably what it's going to look like. Again, it just comes down to whether they decide to use the paint booth or do plastic for everything. Marco says, I know the MT82 and the S550 has had some issues. Do you feel those have been sorted? I think so. I think actually with the 2019s and even 2018s, they made a few improvements. And then 2019s, I heard they kind of like low key made a few other improvements to it there as well. So from the people that I've talked to that seem to know what they're talking about, it sounds like if you're worried about MT82s, you're better off getting an 18 or better yet, a 19. And the 19, then you have the rev match downshifts and stuff as well, which is great. But I would go 19 or newer if you're worried about the MT82s being solid. I mean, there are still some people that complain about the transmission and the bullet and stuff like that. So, I mean, it's not perfect. And, some people still have them blow up or whatever. But I think that for a large percentage of people, it is an improvement for sure. Smile Per Mile says, it's a shame the WRX has become what it is. I understand that competing in motorsports is expensive, but it does help sell more of their products if they can get back into World Rally Championship. Yeah, and honestly, I'm kind of wondering, it's going to be very interesting. Toyota, they still are planning on doing some kind of GR hot hatch, which will most likely be a GR Corolla. I really, really hope that kind of puts the pressure on Subaru and it's not just a WRX that, Toyota just put a new badge on. But, I think if they actually bring the GR Yaris powertrain, toss it in the Corolla, ah, man, that is going to really, I think you will see WX buyers just leave in droves and go get those new GR Corollas or whatever whenever they come out, if they do, because that I think that's what Toyota's doing. Their CEO is actually a racing enthusiast. He races himself, and so when you have that kind of passion, that's how you get stuff that is really really cool, and that's why this stuff gets approved. Like, do you think? I still don't think the second generation BRZ would have ever even happened if Toyota didn't really like finance it and try and make it happen, because it kind of seems off brand for Subaru honestly these days. And I'm not complaining, but I feel like Toyota's really into that racing thing, and I think that's kind of one of the things in my opinion really gives Toyota so much cred these days. Is not only are they putting out so many awesome sports cars, but they're racing. They're led by a team of enthusiasts. I mean, all the people I know within Toyota are enthusiasts through and through. They're real car people. And, I think that really helps between, those kind of companies and companies that are just making appliances and just, are just churning stuff out just for sales numbers, which unfortunately is kind of how the way Subaru's been going recently. I know they have some fun with the wilderness stuff these days and stuff, but it's been kind of sad to watch Subaru and the way they've progressed over the past 15 years. But anyway, I'll get off my Subaru soapbox here. I could go on all night. But Robert says, Matt, do you agree that there is a lack of creativity in regards to companies making these special edition cars? Yeah, that's something that's been kind of interesting the past few years with special edition everything. And it's funny. I mean, it's always been an ever-present thing in the car world. It's an easy cash grab. It's a great thing to do whenever you're in between model years and you need something to, generate a few more sales. But it's kind of funny how it's been really a lot more common recently in the past 5 years in particular. And it kind of reminds me of like the 80s again, which I was not alive in the 80s, but all the 80s cars and kind of them doing all these little special editions that were just trim and badges. And that's what we're getting with a lot of the stuff these days, these blackout packages you get on cars and stuff. I mean, they sell, and that's why they keep doing this stuff, because if they didn't sell, they wouldn't do it. But there's a lot of special editions, and yeah, I mean, it might be a lack of creativity. I think you could also argue it is a little more creative, because instead of just having 4 trims of the Camry, you have this special edition, that special edition with this cool interior and that cool interior, and whatever the case might be. It's kind of, I think it's cool because it gives people the opportunity to have like a fun color for one model year for a special edition that otherwise the company would never do that color or something like that. So I think there's, for example, like the Acura, PMC editions. I mean, they're a little bit more advanced because they're in a completely separate factory and stuff, but like that, like, we were talking earlier about the orange RDX, like, yeah, like maybe, we all wouldn't be caught dead in an orange RDX, but maybe there are, 200 or 300 people that would, just love an orange RDX. And, aside from going and getting it custom painted yourself, they would have never had that opportunity. But now with this special edition, they have that opportunity to get that, vehicle. And, so I think things like that, it's kind of cool. And, I think in my opinion, with cars, it's always about let the consumer decide and put it out there and see what happens, and so I think, the more options we have, the better. And yeah, I mean, there's some stuff that clearly is like a phone it in, like this is a cash grab thing, but there's a buyer for every vehicle out there. There's something that makes zero sense to the rest of us, but someone else is super excited to hop in their Mitsubishi Mirage that they're buying tonight, or whatever the case might be. There's always someone out there. And so I think, hey, if they can further monetize their models with special editions, I'd say go for it. Jake says, missed the 05 to 09 legacy generation was the best Subaru to me. Yeah, those were great. I loved my 06 Spec B. Nathaniel says, hey, Matt, my cousin just got a 2016 Dodge Dart GT, blind spot detection, cross path detection, rear sensors, sport tuned, frequency damping shocks, heated wheel seats, Uconnect 8.4. She loves it. Yeah, the Darts are a great car. I thought the Dart was a very underappreciated compact sedan. It drove great. I thought it actually had, good technology for the time. To get an 8.4-inch touchscreen in 2016 in a compact sedan, that was really cutting edge stuff. And, I think they really were doing a great thing there with the Dart. And I like the marketing for it. I thought the styling was good. I'm not sure why the Dart didn't take off more, honestly, but it's kind of sad. It was kind of sad to see Dodge give up on the compact sedan since the neons and stuff, are so awesome. And I was really hoping they do a Dodge Dart SRT4 or an SRT, I guess these days version. Would have been so cool if they actually brought back the SRT4 motor or something, put it in a Dart with a manual and all that. It would have been so, so sweet. And they were actually, I think they were close to doing one. And there was like a leak of something where they had plans in the timeline to do kind of something like that. But then the regular Darts just quit selling well and they just gave up. It was so sad. William says, you really understand how everyday buyers think just as well as you do how enthusiasts think. A rare talent and one I admire. Well, thanks, William. I appreciate it. It just comes down to putting yourself in someone else's shoes, and that's kind of what I do with the reviews as well. And that's why I'm sure there's a lot of reviews that I post that you guys don't care about, and that's okay. I don't expect everyone to watch every one of my reviews, but I still like covering stuff because there is someone out there who's really excited about the new Nissan Rogue and they're, wanting all the details on it. And so, there's a lot of people where certain cars just make sense to them. And, that's just, and one thing that I think has been really apparent in the past couple of years is, there's things from a car reviewer standpoint. I'm always comparing everything. That's like my brain's just wired for it now, or I'm constantly just like, well, there's this, but then there's this. You can get this and this and this. And I'm always like, anytime but then someone's like, well, yeah, but I'm cross shopping a WRX and a Kawasaki Ninja. And I'm like, what? And there's so many people that do very weird comparisons and stuff. So I have to always keep that in mind as well of like, this might not make sense. Like why would someone pick an F-150 over a Tesla Model 3, but there's a lot of people that are cross shopping those two, strangely enough. And so, just trying to, be objective in my videos and try and just, kind of lay it all out there for you and, see what resonates with you. I think that's kind of why I just put that stuff out there. And I don't also do, these ratings and these number systems and stuff, because just because I think this car is a 10 out of 10 does not mean that everyone else in the world should think that car is a 10 out of 10. Other people might think it is a 0 out of 10 or whatever, and they think I'm crazy for liking what I like. And so that's why everyone's wanted, especially the past few years, that was a very trendy thing to do these rating systems. I think it's misleading because this channel is not about me, even though I'm the one that you're always seeing talking about cars. It's not about me. It's about what you like and what you need and want. I just put it out there. I say, this is the horsepower. This is what it has. This is how it feels going around a corner, whether you like it or not. Like, do you like something soft? If you want something that feels like a boat, here you go. Here's a great boat. If you want something that, feels like it's a go-kart, here's a go-kart. I don't say, oh, you'd be stupid to buy the boat, because a lot of people, that's, they drive 50,000 miles a year or something. And, so it's just, yeah, you have to just kind of recognize. And that's something I know. I agree. A lot of other YouTubers and reviewers, they kind of are stuck in, well, this is the best thing because it's the best. And it's like, no, that's the best to you. And that's something that is just a common cultural issue these days of everyone thinking their opinion is the only one. But that's a whole nother tangent. So Robert says, thanks for answering my responses and questions. Are you a Land Rover fan, by the way? I think Land Rover does a lot of great stuff. I just wish they were reliable. That is, and honestly, there's like heads rolling at Land Rover too, because I read a story recently that they're like really, really trying to like improve the reliability, like badly. Like they're like scrapping plans and they're like desperately like turning over every table to be like, how can we like improve this? Because I mean, the Defender is selling really well. I think they said this past month it was one of the fastest selling new vehicles. It's like in the top 20 or something. They're flying off the lots. There's tons of Defenders. I've seen, several in my area in the past, couple of weeks. I mean, they're very hot vehicles. And so I'm glad that there are people willing to take that risk. But I mean, like Car and Driver, I think they had a Velar as a long-term tester and it wouldn't like get out of their driveway. Like it just locked up. I think like the actual transmission locked up and they like physically couldn't even get it onto a tow truck. Like, I don't know. I just hear so many catastrophic things with Land Rover that, I mean, yes, you have a warranty and, that's fine, but it's also the inconvenience of it. No one wants to be stranded. No one wants to have their day be screwed up because of their car, and that's just, especially these days when everything is so reliable and so, so good. That's my only problem with Land Rover. And that's always my hesitation with people, that are asking about them or, considering shopping for them. I'm like, they're sweet. Their styling is awesome. Their tech is actually really good now. They're fantastic off-road and all that kind of stuff. They have so much going for them. You just have to be brave from the reliability standpoint. If you can be brave, I mean, that's again another thing. Everyone has different risk tolerances. Some people, they're fine taking the risk. They're fine having their car not be perfect. Other people, they want a Toyota Camry or a RAV4 and they want to never worry in their entire life. So it just comes down to personality types there. If you're one of those people that lives on the wild side a little bit, go for a Land Rover. They're really, really sweet. The Defender is so cool. I'm hoping to review one someday, but Land Rover won't send me press vehicles because their fleet's really small and they just don't send stuff very far. But yeah, I'd love to review all the new Land Rover and Jag stuff someday. Because Robert's saying, do you think the Jaguar F-Pace SVR would be considered a reliable vehicle? I think the SVRs are a little bit better from a mechanical standpoint because that engine's been around for several years, actually a good long while. I think mechanically, Jags and Land Rovers are really solid for the most part, as solid as a European vehicle can be. But, I think it's always the electronics in these vehicles. They're always, the dashboard lights up like a Christmas tree. No one knows why. It just does. And just goofy stuff like that. So it's not going to be stuff like it's not going to like overheat on the side of the road. It's not going to blow up in catastrophic fashion or anything. It's just those little gremlins that just get worse as years go on for some reason. But yeah, I mean, if you're looking for a sweet SUV, F-Pace SVR, those things, that's another really, really sweet vehicle that I would love to have as a family car someday if I could afford one, because that engine, that's another all-time great engine that just sounds so good. The supercharger screams like crazy. I'd still love to have an F-Type someday, but I don't know if that's going to happen. I think I've kind of put the F-Type on the back burner because it doesn't have a back seat. And now, like any car I'm considering going forward, I want to be able to take my daughter with me and have her in the back. So I think I need to have a back seat for anything these days. So I think the LC 500 convertible has taken the place of my new, somewhat attainable dream car someday instead of the F-Type. Although maybe someday I'll be able to get an F-Type. We'll see. But yeah, those F-Types are great. Jag's awesome. But Ali Reza says best budget EV right now, something as good as Tesla. So if you're talking Tesla, I'm guessing you're talking like budget as far as like under 50 grand. Because I mean, as far as budget EVs go, I think a Nissan Leaf makes a lot of sense. They are really cheap for what you get these days. It's a solid little vehicle. They've been around forever, so they're reliable. So you don't have to worry about stuff like you do with some of the newer stuff, like the bolts that are catching fire left and right and things like that. So I really think the Nissan Leaf is underappreciated these days. Aside from that, if you're talking about stuff that's Tesla priced, I think the Mach-E, love it or hate it as far as a marketing standpoint goes. But, as far as budget EVs, I think that the Mach-E is a really good value for what you get. Because you look at all the other stuff out there that's, electric, even like, I mean, I think they just revealed pricing for the Kia EV6, like launch edition, not even the GT that's fast, the launch edition. I think that's like 48 grand and it's not even as fast as the Mach-E. And I feel like you get a little bit less tech, a little less space. I don't know. I feel like the Mach-E kind of perfected the Tesla in my opinion, because you have CarPlay and Android Auto, which you don't get in the Teslas. And I still don't know why that's the case, but you get that stuff. You get an actual gauge cluster, which I think is also something that Teslas are sorely lacking in the Model 3 and Model Y. And so I think, if you're looking for something, in a luxury budget kind of price category, the Mach-E is really good. It gives you a little bit more. I think the ID4 is a pretty good value too. I wasn't a huge fan of the ID4's interior. You'll also see that video. It's another one that I filmed months ago that is still waiting on the back burner. That'll probably be posted here in the next couple of weeks, the ID4 review that I did. That was on the rear-wheel drive version. I know everyone's going to be posting the all-wheel drive reviews here relatively soon too. But spoiler alert, ID4, not bad. Not as good as a Mach-E though, in my opinion. But anyway, I guess that's my ranking as far as the, this relatively affordable EVs go. But I think that something as good as Tesla, I think it's tough to beat the Tesla. I think the Tesla is also a pretty good value, especially the Model 3. Obviously, they keep raising the prices, which is really annoying. But I think you get so much space in the Tesla. You still get really good tech, obviously. And you get a lot of car. You get a lot of range for the money, all that kind of stuff. I think the Tesla is still kind of towards the top of the pack there because they're kind of the ones that invented the segment. And so, I think they're kind of one of the tough ones to beat too. Smile from Alice says, I usually don't look into SUVs or off-road cars, but I low-key like the new Defender V8. It gives me the James Bond villain vibe. I know, and they sound like with the V8 too, because it's that same SVR motor. And yeah, Defenders are so sweet. Hands down, I would take a Defender over a G-Wagon any day of the week or anything. They're sweet, sweet vehicles. And every time I see a Defender in my area, it always puts a smile on my face because I'm like, yes, someone has the bravery to buy a Land Rover and they bought one of the coolest ones you can get. Brandon says, do you have any positive or negative opinions or comments regarding the BMW i8? I reviewed an i8 a few years back. So if you haven't seen that video, definitely check that out for all of my thoughts on it. I think the i8 is a really cool car. I think that was another one that was kind of ahead of its time and underappreciated for its time. Yes, it wasn't as fast. It wasn't the supercar everyone wanted it to be, but I think it looks super cool still. I think, it was really forward thinking. And I really like the i8s, especially if you want something, different that stands out for a commuter vehicle. Or, I don't think it'd be a great weekend car or anything, but I think it'd be a really sweet car to live with. If you're okay with a two-seater and you want, really good fuel economy, and that electric component and stuff. I think, the i8 still is kind of in a class of its own. There's basically no other offerings like that currently. Everyone's just going to the EV stuff. And I think the i8 was really onto something and it just never caught on. So Vathson is saying, what are the most reliable sports cars in your opinion? Anything made by Toyota. So, like RCF, LCF, or just LC, I mean. And then, yeah, I think the 86, the FRS, BRZ are really reliable. Other stuff, Nissan Z seems to be pretty reliable, 370s, stuff like that. I mean, when they get really old, they like to consume oil with that VQ motor, but otherwise it seems to be pretty reliable. If you consider a Mustang to be a sports car, I think that those 5.0 Mustangs, they'll go 200,000 miles without issue. Challengers also, again, that kind of stuff. You're talking about pretty dated technology as far as the motors go. They're very rock solid, reliable. They'll run forever. The other little parts on them, might not, last forever, but the engine and stuff I think will. So I think those are probably, anything Japanese is going to be, pretty reliable forever. I also think there's a pretty good chance that stuff like the Veloster N, things like that could also be pretty reliable, long term. But I mean, those are new motors and, kind of uncharted territory there. So we'll have to see with those. But I think if you want a reliable sports car, go for an FRS 86 BRZ, Z, or some of the muscle cars and stuff like that. So hopefully that answers your question. Brian says, when are you reviewing a Rivian? I have no clue. Since they're kind of a brand new company, I don't know any PR people there or anything like that. So as far as, press fleets are going to be very tough. I'm sure they'll probably have like a couple for LA, maybe one or two for New York. But as far as sending stuff to me, I'm a pretty small fish these days too, compared to a lot of the others out there. So I don't know when I'll review a Rivian. I'd love to. They're very, very impressive vehicles. I don't know if any of you guys watched Long Way Up. That was on, I think it's an Apple TV thing. Really interesting series. Highly recommend if you like kind of travel adventure kind of shows and stuff like that. Anyway, they had a Rivian as their support vehicle. And the grueling test they put that thing through with all their adventures and stuff. It was, I think the Rivian's really solid, and I'm so impressed with them and their progress. I think it's going to be awesome, but I'm hoping to try one someday. Maybe an owner will get one and offer it to me or something. Who knows? But yeah, they're sweet. Cole, thank you so much for the super chat. He says, opinion on 2018 Audi S5 Sportback. I think they're awesome vehicles. They're a lot of fun. The only thing I will say is that I think I would prefer a Stinger GT personally. I think it's a little bit of a better value. It's going to be a little bit more reliable than the Audi in the long run. And you get a 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty if you get a certified pre-owned Stinger versus the Audi, where you just have to pay for an extended warranty if you want one. So I think they're sweet cars. I only did a quick drive video on an S5 Sportback. I haven't actually been able to review one. Maybe I'll get to review one now that Audi sends me press vehicles. But yeah, I'm hoping to try one out. But I mean, as far as the 2018s, they were really nice. I just remember back then when I did the quick drive, I had just gotten out of a Stinger GT not too long ago, and I was like, I'd rather have a Stinger for 10 grand less. But if it makes sense now and you're looking at a used 2018 or something like that, it would appreciate a little bit faster than the Kia did, and that might make more sense or something. Kind of depends on the situation. But I think the S5s are cool cars for sure. I miss the V8 S5s from back in the day. Those things were sweet. Mario says he has an A5 Sportback now and loves it, had it since new. So there you go. That's awesome that someone else is able to give their opinion here too. Marco says, if you didn't have the Bullet, what would be in your garage? Well, until this year, so if I didn't have the Bullet or the Bullet didn't exist, and I couldn't get a Mustang or something like that, I probably would be driving a Supra. That would be my little sports car there that I would have. Now, I love the GR86 so much that if I lived in a world where there was no such thing as Mustangs, I would probably actually possibly trade in my Supra for a GR86 if I had one. That would be, I think, the move right now. If there was no Bullet, 100% I would have a GR86. I would have an order for one right now, and that would be my pick for sure, because I love them that much. Some of it's a sentimental thing of missing my BRZ, but they just did so many good improvements with the new GR86. And if you watched Savage Geese just did their video on the GR86 and they dynoed it, it actually puts out more power than they're even claiming now. So like it sweetens the deal even more with how much it's putting out more power and stuff. I mean, even this on paper, the improvements were good. And then now to see it on the dyno making even more power than advertised. Yeah, GR86 all the way for me, I think, if I didn't have the Bullet. But the Supra is really sweet, and it'd be a toss-up between the two because I love the exhaust sounds better on the Supra. I think the styling's more exciting on the Supra. The power, of course, is more fun and stuff. But I think for my usage and stuff, I'd be, perfectly happy with the GR86 for half the price, probably. And Doggedly Determined says, would you get a GLC 43 to replace the C300? Used ones are reasonably priced. We don't. I mean, I guess you're talking about Beth with her C300, or maybe you're talking about yourself as well. But personally, we don't touch used German vehicles. I worked at, the Harrison Auto Sales, and I used to work at a BMW, Audi, and a Porsche dealer back in high school and stuff. And the used German vehicles just turned into basket cases after maybe, 4 or 5 years or so. I mean, it's always electrical gremlins left and right. And then it's expensive mechanical repairs and stuff. So that's why, like with all the two Mercedes that Beth has had here over the past, 5 years now, they've always been leases, and we never keep them after that. GLC 43 is same thing. Yeah, we could probably get a used one to replace the C300. She did really like the GLC. We really considered a GLC back even whenever she was getting her regular C300 the second go around here. But personally, just will not touch a used German vehicle. Just had too many bad experiences. I don't recommend them. I think they're great. I think Mercedes, Audi, and BMWs are great lease vehicles, but unless it's something collectible like an RS7 or something like that, I would not buy it. I would definitely lease it and then move on, once it's done. Antoine Lee Thomas says, Sophion just reviewed the new Bronco 2-door with a 6-speed manual. Because you're both in the same area state-wise, are you getting the Bronco manual he just reviewed or a 4-door manual Bronco? I'm hoping to get that vehicle at some point. I've been trying to get my press fleet person to get that vehicle to me. It's been a struggle currently. It's a very hot vehicle, of course. Lots and lots of people are wanting it, to review. So it's been kind of tough with trying to get Fords recently. So I'm going to try and get it because, yes, it is in my fleet, and theoretically I should be able to get it. But whether or not I do remains to be seen, because there's been stuff. There was supposedly a Mach 1 in my area very briefly that was in the fleet. I had been asking for a Mach 1 this entire year. For some reason, it didn't get sent to me. I don't know why. So I'm kind of bummed about that. So I don't have any high hopes for any other Fords, because I don't know what the deal was with the Mach 1 skipping me. But so yeah, hopefully, I can get the Bronco, but I'm not sure. But I would definitely like to review that vehicle. I think it'd be really cool to review the new manual and stuff. So fingers crossed that the Bronco review happens someday. So Robert says, which Mercedes SUV can you recommend owning for around 50K new or used? Um, so I would do new, and 50K, I would probably go for a modestly spec GLC. I know they're really old and they're about to have the new version, but I think that the GLBs and the GLAs are just, the dual clutch in them isn't great. They're a little bit cheaper with the way they're built and stuff versus the GLC. The GLC really feels solid and that typical Mercedes feeling you're going for. But again, like I just mentioned, I would stick to a new one for sure. So I think that would probably be the play right now if I were you in that situation. Just go for a GLC. The good news is you could probably get a really good deal on a current gen GLC because they know the new one's right around the corner. And if you wait a couple of months for them to reveal the new one, then you can probably get an even better deal because everyone's going to be rushing to dump their old GLCs, and you get a really good deal on, one of the ones sitting on the lot still or something. But that was probably what I would suggest. Smile per Mile says, yeah, the Savage Geese review on the G86 is really well done. I agree. The Mini Access, have you seen the 2022 C300? Beautiful car. I have. Yeah, it was. I covered that in the weekly update whenever it came out, and it's a really nice looking car. It's just for us, we would like a little bit extra space with a hatch, with an SUV or something like that, with the baby and carrying all the stuff for her. So yeah, I think, and Beth's always wanted an SUV. She's had the sedans and she's really enjoyed them, but I think we're going to be probably going to an SUV here for the next vehicle for sure. But the new C300 does look really nice for sure. Adrian says, do you know when it arrives, the new BRZ? November, December? BRZ production, they said, starts before GR86. I think they said it was late October or early November for BRZ. It's a little foggy, but somewhere around there. And then I believe GR86 is coming online like middle of November. So like, maybe the very first cars will start showing up like the very end of November, basically December, which is unfortunate for anyone who lives in the snow belt because it's like, great, they're showing up right in time for, a bunch of snow. So like, if I were to buy like a GR86 or a BRZ, I'd just be like, well, I'll just see in April and I'll get one then because there's no point in taking delivery of something like that in, the middle of winter. But so other questions here. Admiral Coyote says, thoughts on the GR Yaris? I love those things. They seem really cool. Obviously, I've never driven one because they're not here in the States. But I really hope we get that powertrain in the new Corolla. I think that would be a very fun vehicle. And I think that would really elevate the whole GR brand for Toyota in general here in the States. If they brought something that awesome here, I think that would be, even if it's in the Corolla, which is bigger and heavier, it would still be a fantastic vehicle and a lot of fun. The Mini Access, go for the E63S. Yeah, that is way above my pay grade. That'd be fun to do an E63S wagon or something like that. But yeah, that is way above my pay grade for sure. Nathaniel says, would Beth like a Grand Cherokee Summit? No, she's not into Jeeps or anything like that really. So, and that's also a little bit too much. I mean, those are really gas guzzlers and stuff. We want something that's a little more fuel efficient. So we would not, and that's also kind of overkill. Those things are, very powerful and can tow a bunch and all that. So we probably wouldn't do anything like that. We want something, because also we have to like park it, and Beth doesn't like enormous vehicles. So any SUV we do get is going to be definitely on the smaller side for sure. Nothing too big. Will's asking about thoughts on the new Integra. Well, from what we know from the little teasers and stuff, it's going to be very exciting. And someone a long time ago here, about an hour ago, probably asked, cars I'm looking forward to next year. And that's when I forgot about. New Integra is very high on my list of cars I'm excited for next year. That's going to be a fantastic little vehicle, I'm sure. I mean, just based on what we know about the Acura parts bin and the Honda parts bin even, even if they just do a normal Integra that has, the top Civic motor in it or something, still could be a really great little vehicle. But then if they do anything remotely exciting with it, like if they put the TLX motor in the Integra, you're looking at, that 2-liter turbo motor from the Accord in a smaller little vehicle like an Integra could be a riot to drive. Could be a blast. There's all kinds of possibilities for the Integra. Just the fact that name's coming back is super cool too. So I'm all kinds of excited about the new Integra. So yeah, we'll just have to wait and see how that develops and what ends up coming about of that. But hopefully they don't turn it into some jacked up crossover and to call it the Integra Cross. Thankfully the silhouette looks like it actually is a small car, and it won't break our hearts. So yeah, we'll have to see, but I'm excited for it. Mario, thank you so much for the very generous super chat. He says, thanks for all you do here on YouTube, Matt. Well, thank you all for watching. We're actually basically out of time here too. So yeah, I just want to thank all of you again. This whole channel, everything is possible because of you guys watching the videos and joining in here and commenting and liking and subscribing and all that kind of stuff. Like I always have said in the past few live streams, if you want to help the channel, the best way to do so is to click on recommended videos that you see and watch them all the way through. Those are the two things the algorithm really loves these days, even more than liking and subscribing and commenting and stuff like that, is just if you see it recommended to you and you click it and you watch all the way through, they're like, wow, this person loves these videos and our recommendation system's great, so we'll recommend these videos to more people. That's always the best way currently. They always change the algorithm and stuff, but currently that's the best way to help the channel. And yeah, it always helps, and this is all possible thanks to you guys. And so yeah, but thank you all for joining here on this live stream. Sorry I wasn't able to answer everyone's questions, but hopefully you enjoyed the live stream nonetheless. But thank you all very much for watching. And yeah, I'll see you on the next one. We'll try and do another live stream here relatively soon. I'm going to try and get back to the monthly live streams here now. Things are kind of slowing down. We're getting into the colder months. So hopefully we'll do one here maybe towards the end of October. But anyway, in the meantime, stay safe and healthy, you guys. And yeah, stay tuned for the RS7 review coming out this week. It should be a fun one. So thanks for watching. Take care.